Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Greet the Week. I'm Jan Moray, and my co-host is Mona Duncan.
Hello.
And Mona will be leading the discussion today. We're talking about strategies to overcome self-sabotage. So what's on your mind, Mona?
Well, self-sabotage, I'm guilty. How about you?
Oh, yeah, I've done it.
I'm guilty less and less,
Yeah.
but
But it still happens.
It still happens. But, one of those things, I'm getting closer when, and I realize that I've self-sabotaged less and less.
Yeah.
So I thought we would look today at how, and it seems important. Checking those emails and answering the phone and maybe even doing a little internet searching and things like that. Those are important. But whenever we put them ahead of what the really urgent things are, what the really, really important things are. So I worked on a little.
All right, you got something.
PowerPoint, yeah.
All right.
I'm looking down here at the bottom to how do I, when all of these things come up, they block each other. There we go. We'll put it in the, okay. So I found this little graphic of the guy sawing the log off. I thought that was a really good way of illustrating it. If I get that picture in my mind,
Right.
that whenever I'm sawing off the log I'm sitting on, I am harming myself. And so it's looking at the fact of what if I do, fill in the blank, and it doesn't work. What if I do re-up my website and it's not a big deal. What if I do lose 10 pounds before going to this high school reunion and nobody loses their socks,
And nobody notices, huh?
Right. Nobody notices. What if I do all that and it just doesn't work? And again, well, what if I do lose all this weight or update my website? Or what if I do it and it does work? Then what? So but then why do we self-sabotage? Well, I like old Franklin Roosevelt's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this is the complete quote that he said. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the thing we have to fear is fear itself. And then he qualifies it. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed effort to convert retreat into advance. And so, it's that fear itself. And I'm sure you've seen this before, that fear,
Right.
using that it's false evidence appearing as real. The thing of it is that stuff can really look real. It can really seem real.
It does. It really does. And it just happens. We don't even think about it. And we just start these fears just start coming up. And when you stop and think and you go, well, wait, what's going on here? What am I doing? Why am I doing this?
Yeah. What am I thinking about? Or what am I not thinking about? Or, yeah. So, if we go into a dark room and we can't see what we're doing, or we're not making smooth passage across the room, turn on a light, whether it's a little flashlight or whether it is, an overhead light or a lamp. And light just causes that darkness to go back a little bit, only every time. It only works always.
Yeah.
And so I was beginning to look at it, and let's just talk about this. What are some of the things that we are afraid of?
Oh, I see you have success on the top of the list. We're not supposed to be afraid of success, but we are, aren't we? Subconsciously, right?
Can you identify with that?
Yeah. Because it is kind of scary. We all want to succeed, but what keeps us from doing the things that we need to do?
Yeah. Right. So it's that fear of success. And so we'll just go through these really quick, and I want to go back up and talk about success, fearing that as much as anything. Right. So it's fear of success, from fear of failure, making mistakes, misunderstanding, afraid of being right.
Wow.
Afraid of being wrong.
I can relate with afraid of being wrong, but afraid of being right.
Well, that kind of goes back up with success.
Yeah.
The thing of it is whether we're right or whether we're wrong, that's all we get to be. You know, if I'm right, I don't get to be superior. If I'm wrong, I don't get to be inferior.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to realize that maybe I had more information than someone else when I'm correct, and when I'm incorrect, then maybe someone else has more information than I do.
Yeah.
That
And it doesn't mean you're going to be wrong all the time. It's just this particular incident. But where does our brain go? You know, I'm so stupid. I never know any of this stuff.
Right. Can't be. Someone said, you know, there's no way that we can be stupid enough to be wrong all the time.
Right.
And maybe sometimes we may be afraid of not being heard or not being agreed with.
Yeah.
But going back up to that fear of success, you know, and whenever to overcome any of these fears, but even that one to succeed, what is it that we think we need? Do we need permission? Do we need permission to be great? Do we need permission to be smart? Do we need permission? So, you know how I love words.
Mm-hmm.
If I hear the word authority, you know, for if we need permission, then we're needing authority from something. And what's the root word of authority?
Looks like author there.
Yeah. And so we are the author of our life. Everyone is.
Yeah.
But often we don't give ourselves permission to know that.
Yeah.
And then, being the authority of our life, we need to decide what we will do, will not do, how we do it, so forth. That decide, that little IDE,
Mm-hmm.
that is used in a lot of words, like, that's used in a lot of words, you know, like pesticide and suicide and homicide.
Yeah.
And that IDE means to kill off.
Wow.
Now, the thing of it is, everything that I like to look at is on a spectrum.
Yes.
And right in the middle of the spectrum is the promised land. You know, it's the healthiness, it's the good times, it's the successes, it's going over with, you know, maybe a little bit to the maybe a really special celebrations, a little bit more of a success, and to the other side of the pains and so forth. But living there just in the middle ground, and often, you know, by deciding that we want to succeed, and even though we may be a little bit afraid of it, we can put to death that fear of failure. Whereas if we are too afraid and we continue to sabotage by, you know, sabotaging ourselves, and we begin to fail, then what we have done is we have decided to let lethargy win.
Yeah. Let someone else take over.
Yeah. And then those resources, you know, what resources do we need?
A lot of times we're afraid to ask for them, or we may not even think about what we need. What do I need to do?
Yeah. But we have such a creative system that if we'll just give a little bit of conscious thought to it, we'll probably come up with more ideas than sometimes we may be willing to pursue.
Right.
And
get our thoughts away from the things that aren't going to go well, or things we're afraid of, and change the thinking to, well, how can I make it work? What do I need?
Right. What do I need? Who do I need? Who do I need to talk to? What books do I need to read? And then just to get that courage. And so I put down here what we need is we need acceptance. And acceptance helps us to remove that fight or flight response. Once I accept it, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for it to be what I'm wanting it to be and to succeed, then I need to do what I need to do. That acceptance of the fact that, you know, it may take baby steps, and baby steps may take more information, it may take this, it may take that, but that acceptance of it, it may be, you know, sometimes we want to say hard. If we'll stop looking at it as being hard and saying it's not easy, that in itself just takes the burden off.
Yeah.
And it removes that fight or flight.
Well, it helps to take it away from reacting and where you're responding to the situation.
Right.
Accept something. You're starting to take a little ownership and on it, and not just allowing your emotions to take over.
Exactly. So here, I was someone the other day was telling me about the fact that they had gone on vacation and they took some of their in-laws with them, and they went to this really, really big, nice, well-known restaurant, and the mother-in-law didn't want to go in, or well, did go in, but looked at the menu and everything, and she said, I don't know. She said, I never eat food I haven't eaten before.
I think I used to be that way one time, long time ago. Afraid to try something new.
Yeah.
It's very restricting.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, that kind of sounds like, what?
Yeah.
I never eat food I haven't eaten before.
Yeah.
And so I got to thinking about that, and I looked at it, and I found this little graphic of the brain. And I love that because, wheels roll and all systems work perfectly
Okay.
for the results they produce. And so if we're self-sabotaging ourselves, obviously our thinking, acting, and feeling are not going, they're kind of sluggish.
They're not working together. They're trying to inhibit each other, right?
Right. It's going back to that fact that, be right or wrong, that doesn't make you inferior or superior. You're just right or wrong. It's an idea. It may work, it may not work, but we won't know unless we try. So anyway, I saw this little graphic of the brain, and I really liked that. And so as we begin to, and then of course that affects our physiology too. So we want to begin to get them going, and that's the direction that they need to go if we're going around in a circle, but we don't want it to be a circle that drives us crazy.
No.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just going out of my mind. It's just driving me crazy. No. And things drive us crazy whenever we don't come to a conclusion.
Right. When we can't make a decision, when we don't know which way we're going to go and things are uncertain. Oh, that's the worst. That's the worst time.
And many times our self-sabotaging is simply because we haven't made a decision.
Okay.
And taken the courage and the stamina to step out and to try it. So I have never eaten food that I haven't eaten before. I got to thinking about that. So I came up with these little bullet points. We do think in pictures or symbols. And as we go all the way back, back to our nurturing and basic needs and so forth, food is a symbol of emotional stability. I mean, even today, what we have: soul food, soul music, soul made, it's those things that comfort and grace. That food is a biggie.
Yeah.
Food is a biggie. That symbol of emotional stability. Well, in 1853, a guy named Dr. William Carpenter came up with the terminology unconscious
cerebration.
Unconscious cerebration. Yeah. Do you know that word?
No. But I'm sure it has something to do with your brain.
It does. I love it. And just last week, I love how all these things just work together. Last week, I was trying to decide something, decided, and I have a Merriam-Webster app on my phone that sends me a word every day.
Okay, yeah, I have one of those, the word of the day. Love it.
Yeah. And so I pulled it up, and it was cerebrate.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's to use the mind to problem solve, to really think. Now, he came up with unconscious consciousness, that we're thinking, that we're not really, we're problem solving, we come to a conclusion, but we're not really thinking about it. It's our body that stored all those memories. It's, being active, and we're not even aware of it. But the world as a large honored his unconscious cerebralness, that they made it into a word.
Okay.
That whenever we consciously think about something, and that to consciously thinking about it deliberately, on purpose, putting other things aside, thinking about it, how that then all of our energy, it brings us into the now, and it challenges us on those things that we're fixated on, or those things that we have given limited thought to, or we have seen them as being limiting thoughts, as in, you'll never succeed, you'll never amount to anything, Who do you think you are?
Mm-hmm.
Those things that, and so we need to eat new thoughts.
Eat new thoughts. Okay.
Eat new thoughts. Just look at that. Well, what if I could? What if I could overcome this habit? What if I could control my temper? What if I could? What if I could? What if I could? But then don't really go searching for the answer. Just leave it there so that we can live in that accepting of maybe I could.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could. Maybe I could. Because whenever we resist, it's usually because of our emotional programming.
Oh, yes.
It's our emotional programming that causes us to resist.
Yeah. Well, that's the emotion that comes up. You're really not even thinking about it.
Right.
And so immediately you're feeling some discomfort or uneasiness about it. And so then the signal that you're getting is, oh, this is territory I don't like to go in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Or it may be territory that, I was told I wasn't supposed to go in.
Correct.
I wasn't smart enough, or that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a piece, whatever you resist persists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Whatever we are resistant to, and then there's resist not evil, and because whatever you resist, it's just going to keep looming on us and growing and growing. So what are some of those emotional programmings? Fear. I've talked before about being afraid of lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Until I had an aunt that helped me to eat some new thoughts.
Right.
As long as we stay in a safe place, we can watch it and enjoy it, but not be afraid of it. One of those resistant things is boredom, anger, depression. But if we realize that these are thought patterns, that when you see a spider, you go to, oh no, it's the end of the world, begin to consciously go back to that sebriate and consciously realize that this is a thought pattern. And those patterns are things that keep repeating themselves.
Yeah, and they will continue to do that until you make the conscious effort to say, I'm going to do something about it this time. I'm not going to allow it to keep me from doing the things that I want to do.
Yeah, or till we repattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, refocus until we, and baby steps are okay.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with baby steps.
If it's just a little bit of seeing it differently and thinking it differently and being calm or being energetic to bring it about for just a few minutes. And so those emotional thought patterns, those areas in which we have conflict, are usually where we're more secure. What if I fail? What if I succeed? Then what'll I do? In the area of needing approval, it kind of goes back to Dr. Glasser's love and belonging. We need that approval. And those areas of conflict are usually in control. My way or my way. Or I at least need you to, going back to, I at least need you to hear me, to understand me, or to see if maybe it could. So as we repattern ourselves, as we eat new thoughts, we begin to expand. We want to go wide. We live in an ever-expanding universe. Well, as we begin to open our minds, instead of sabotaging, but to growing and nurturing, and then embody that loving awareness without judgment of what I do, of what the end result is, loving awareness without, and just accepting it, which is going to take away that fight or flight, and it's going to give us the nurturing to be there and to come up with new ideas, either to continue, to stop, to start, to stop something, to start something. And then the fact that action dispels inactivity every time.
Yes.
But we want to, because the same thing can take us either direction, that it can take us to the pleasure or to the painful. We always want to be aware of where we're going with it and how we're using it for what the outcome will be.
And sometimes you do get that thought to resist, and it is good to stop and think about it, because maybe your body is trying to tell you something, and you do
Right.
heed that resistance, say, no, I'm not going to do that. But more times than not, I think it probably is hurting us. There are we should just keep moving forward. But as long as we're making the conscious decision whether to do it or not is important.
So, as we're getting close here, not that we're stopping completely, but I want to.
You're going to show us something else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here it is, right here. Go back to the. Okay, it's a poem by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. One ship sails east, one ship sails west, regardless of how the wind blows. It is the set of the sail and not the gale that determines the way we go.
Mm-hmm.
Like the winds of the sea are the waves of fate as we voyage along through life. 'Tis the set of the soul that decides its goal, and not the calm or the strife.
Mm.
Very good.
Beautiful?
Right.
It's the decisions we make. The decisions we make, either to kill it or to nurturize it,
Mm-hmm.
that determines the winds that blow. And then, that can go back to the things that we need. Do we need resources? Well, there may be a lot of truth to that law of attraction.
No.
That we attract to us, we draw to us. What is it we need? What is it we're really wanting? What is it whether it's information or actual help or ideas or courage or whatever, we begin to draw it to us. And
like you said, to take the action, to do something, and see what happens, instead of just sitting there and waiting for stuff to happen to you.
Right. Although waiting does have its place. It does.
But again, I guess you're making the conscious decision to do it, and not just doing it out of fear, where you can't do anything because you're stuck, you're frozen, because of whatever you're afraid of. And so to try to find one little thing, anything you can do, one baby step to take to get you closer to where you want to go, or even just trying to make a decision of what is your goal, what are you trying to achieve, what do you want to do, because a lot of people don't really know what it is they want.
Right. Or make the decision of, who do I need to talk with, who do I need to, what more information do I need about accomplishing this?
Yeah.
So I guess the bottom line is we can overcome.
We can. It's kind of interesting that you chose this topic for this week. I was listening to a podcast. I haven't finished listening to it, but it's about choking and the psychology behind choking. And that's also a form of self-sabotage, that where in doing something important, then all of a sudden we totally forget our train of thought, or we can't do, like they talk about in sports too, you can't do certain things that you normally can do in your sleep, and all of a sudden you're losing the confidence because you've got this whole crew, a whole lot of people watching, or you've got something at stake, or how everyone's going to be disappointed if you fail, or everyone's looking at you to go. And so how can we take all that energy and focus it in a positive way so that we can succeed instead of sabotaging ourselves?
And going back to our word, sebriate, it is realizing that it's that unconscious thinking that may be taking us back to a time that, maybe I was 12 and I couldn't, but I'm not 12 now. And maybe I can. What if I could?
That reminds me of a client I once had. We were talking about, where she wanted to go, and things just weren't working out. And she was talking about all kinds of things that her parents had done that she felt like that held her back. And I said, well, you're an adult now. You're not
Right,
living with your
exactly.
parents. She just kind of looked at me. She goes, you're right. And she had never really thought about that. And it was all those messages she had heard for years and years were still with her, even though she was on her own and trying to do her own thing. But she never even thought to question it.
Right,
Or
right,
say, yes, I can.
yeah. I knew one man, kind of a similar situation that, had the resources, had the talent but just was holding back, was just choking.
Uh-huh.
And, can I help you think this through? Why is it that's holding you back? And as he began to really think about it, he said, I don't want us to lose the farm.
Oh.
And that had been something that, he couldn't do this, he couldn't do that as a kid growing up because, we don't want to lose the farm. We don't want to lose the farm.
Yeah.
And it was like that, where you said to your friend, you're not, and he came up with it on his own and said, I'm holding on because I don't want to lose the farm.
Wow.
And do you have enough, enough consciousness? Are you looking at the balance sheets? Are you looking at the income, the outcome? Are you looking at the, the input, the output, to realize that there may be a good enough blanket there?
Yeah.
You may stretch it a little bit, but.
Or how much are you really hurting the situation by being so conservative and being, watching it so closely? Maybe there's some things that you can try, you can do, that the risk isn't too bad. I mean, you're doing your baby step. Try something a little bit here and see what happens. It may end up being better for the farm.
Yeah. But you look at that little poem that Ella Wilcox wrote.
Mm-hmm.
The ship, one going east, one going west.
Yeah.
And it's not the wind that's blowing.
Right.
It's not the resources there. It's how is your sail.
How you're setting the sail.
How is your thinking? How is your planning? How is your and it applies to life itself. And we're all on this ship together.
Right.
And how are we?
And we need to work together to get it going in the right direction.
Right. Well, I have 1:30, and
Okay.
any more thoughts? Anyone want to say anything or chime in?
Mona, is it possible to get a copy of the slides?
Send me your address and I will. Send me your email address.
Email me.
Yeah, send me your email address and I'll do that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's monaduncan@gmail.com.
Okay.
It's DUNKIN.
All right. And so, Mona, if you want to send those to me too, then I can make them available or wherever this.
So monaduncan@gmail.
It's DUNKIN.
Yeah, and it's gmail.com, is it? Okay.
Gmail.com.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so I enjoyed thinking about this for myself personally.
Yeah.
Revisiting.
No, this is an important one. This is something that I think we've all gone through this at some time in our lives. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week on another edition of Greet the Week.
Okay, go on. Thanks for watching.